Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch Harlan, and welcome to the Truth Talks podcast. Today's guest is Joe Tabbanella. This guy is colorful. He's interesting. He is a certified hypnotherapist, motivational speaker, and an NLP trainer. Joe, how are you?
I'm great. I'm always great. How are you?
Yeah, well, after talking to you, I'm great, and I feel like I'm going to be even greater. We had a very fun conversations prior to doing this podcast with you. You also come very highly recommended from one of our favorite guests we had on, Antoinette Perugine, Hard G. Man, you're colorful, animated, and your content's amazing. Tell me about Joe Tabbanella.
Well, Joe Tabbanella grew up in Brooklyn, blue collar family, low class. We had no money, and I grew up like pretty much in the street corner of Brooklyn, and I've always been fascinated about how people worked, how their minds worked. Why is that person successful? And I hated platitudes like, oh, he worked hard, or oh, they just got an education, oh, why is that person lucky? Why is this person doing that? And I was very curious about that. And so I would say clinically depressed at times in my life. I'd sit in my car, wishing I wasn't here on the planet. And I was bartending and working in nightclubs at a very young age in New York and in Brooklyn. And I owed some guy money, and I needed $5,000 basically, somehow through just a kid growing up on the streets. My car was totaled. My parents didn't have any money to give me. I quit my job, or kind of got fired, and I was looking for a car, and I had to pay off this guy. You know what I mean, right? So I owed about $5,000, and you know how you round up, like, what did you need? I rounded up. I need 5,000, but remember, this is in the '80s, so 5,000 was like 20,000, and from growing up in a family that didn't seem like they had a dollar to give me, it felt like $100,000. Like if I was trying to manifest 100,000 today, just manifest it out of the sky, that's what it would feel like, right, today. And that's what it felt like. It felt like impossible. So I started praying like a good Catholic, praying to God, and God, I need 5,000, and I'd play my license plate of the car that was totaled, every day, the pick 4, which was 5,000. And I was praying, and all of a sudden I heard a voice that's been with me throughout the years, and it was probably just the voice of the neurologists call the wise advocate part of our brain. Some call it spirit, some call it a download. I don't know. I don't care. I just know it wasn't my kind of thinking. So it was either a higher part of me, maybe some archetype that's in my subconscious. I don't know what it was, but it said. Who are you praying to? I said, God, thank you. I said, well, if God was here, would you ask it for $5,000? Which was strange, because being a Catholic, God's not an it, but I knew what it meant. The voice meant it, like God, all that is, the omnipotent, omnipresent, God, the essence that animates electrons, the field, as they call it, the 0-point energy, like that, like all that is, where everything comes from. And I said, yeah. And I said, no, think about it. And they always come in threes. I said, yeah, I thought about it. Think about it. And the third time, they were very firm, not angry, but firm. They said, okay, think about it. God, okay. What's God? All that is, okay. And so I imagined the room starting to split open in time and space. Like, this is not something that happened to me, it's something I imagined, because I was like, well, if I'm going to imagine I'm talking to God, I may as well consider God, the enormity of God, So time and space started splitting open, like you see in a science fiction movie, like The Veil, and this light started shooting through. And suddenly I realized that I was one with everything, which was weird because I didn't understand like quantum physics in those days. I wasn't into Krishnamurti yet. Maybe I read a little bit about Krishna, but I was like one with everything. Right. And I was one with everything. And all of a sudden, it was a weird experience. I became everything. And I remember saying, whatever you want, all that is that I'm part of, whatever you want from me, you want me to get smacked around, that's fine. You want me, whatever it is, like I'm willing to give my life for me, which is you, which is the extended version of me, the bigger version of me that is doing everything, not the little me. And so I surrendered, and all of a sudden I was just feeling great. I had this feeling in my heart. Best way to put it is the feeling in my chest was motivating my behavior. It wasn't my thoughts. It wasn't my fears. It wasn't the illusion of separation. It wasn't want and need and fear. It was just a feeling of, I just feel like walking down the street. And I just started walking down the street. Don't know why. I was walking, and I was in this zone, right? Like I had this, in my neighborhood, you don't smile at people you don't know, you get your ass kicked if you're walking, right? So I walked past these two guys, I was just like, hi, hi, hey, what are you looking? And I just walked right past them, and I wound up in front of the convenience store down the street from like a block away from where I live. And I remember going, oh, this is interesting. What am I doing here? Oh, this is where I play the lottery. Might as well walk in and play since I'm here. But I had no reason to be there. I wouldn't go until I had my sign. That license plate, though, another license plate, the receipt, I wouldn't go. So there's no reason for me to be there other than just felt like being there in the flow of being one with everything. And I walk in and I played my license plate of the car that's totaled, because that's the only number I had that was consistent every day. And a woman that just turns to me, standing there, and says, 1729, trust me, I've been playing it long enough. I thought ketchup bottles were a sign from God. And here's a human being saying, trust me, I didn't think anything of it, because nothing mattered anymore. I was in the flow. Everything was everything. So I played her number and I left. And I went home, and that night I had $300 to my name. They say act as if. That's the byproduct. You don't want to act as if. You'll go broke if you act as if. You wind up acting as if once you become the change you wanted to make. So I really started feeling like I already had what I needed. It was a weird way I've experienced this dozens of times before. Once I imprinted it into the subconscious, it became a kind of feeling of, it was like a seed that was germinating. You just know it's growing. And so I remember spending the last 300 to my name with my friends. My friend he's the guy who got the first apartment. We hung out, I bought clothes, I bought food, And my friend goes, what are you doing spending this money? Don't you owe so-and-so money? I mean, it's going to pay for a week's vig, And I was just like, don't ask me how I know, but I have $5,000. And I didn't even call that night. Like normally I would call at 7:47, like soon as the number came out. I forgot what time it was, but it was exactly, I would call. And I remember being on the phone and someone said, are you calling the lottery? And I was just like, I said, no. Oh, I played too, but no, I didn't. I'm calling someone else. I hung up the phone and I never called that night. So the next morning, I'm living at my parents' house. And next morning I wake up and I'm just hanging out in the kitchen. And then it hit me that I never called. The lottery, because it was a habit. I would call every day. And I was like, I never call. And I call, and it's those four numbers the woman gave me. It's 1729. And I said, oh, I lost, because I just remembered the plate that day. And I went, wait a minute. I went up and checked the ticket, called again. And I just couldn't believe what was happening. And I said to myself, wow, wind can come by and blow this ticket out of my hand, and it wouldn't matter. It really wouldn't have mattered. And that voice said, that's exactly why you want it. So I'm a kind of a logical minded guy. I'm like a science minded guy, And so to me, it's just like, if you're looking to create, a spark, and then you do something here and you get a spark, you don't want to keep doing this. You want to say, what was that? And for me, that was me letting go of fear and want. Right? But then I started saying, what is this? Is this grace? Is this prayer? Is this science? Can I repeat this? Can I do this again? So that's when I started reading about Joseph Murphy, the subconscious mind, Florence Scovel Shulman, all these people. I started reading about Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow. Yeah, I thought and got rich, so to speak. I was like, what is this? And I said, maybe I did create all that said, did I create all that? Hey guys, did I create all this? Like, did I make all that up and just happen to win the lottery one day? And that day I walk out of my house and my friend Steven, who was there at that time when I was 19, this is like years later, right? He happened to be walking down my street. You don't do that in Brooklyn. You don't walk down someone's street. You're in the car all the time, or you're on your street. You just don't walk down it, especially the street he was walking down. It's no reason. And he happened to be walking right down my street. And I said, Steve, he goes, hey. And he comes over, he goes, you know what I was just thinking about the other day? I said, what? He said, remember when you needed 5,000 and you were saying you had it and you were acting, you're like, oh, I have, you're going to go to Pennsylvania and you were just saying like, I have this money. I don't know how. I said, so I really said that, right? That all happened. He said, yeah, I was there. I said, okay, so I'm not crazy. So I just started researching about what is it? Can I repeat it? Is it just, like I said, is it grace? You just like one day, if you're good enough or do something right, or you get a couple of prayers answered, what is this? And I finally figured it out. So one day I was an actor at the time. For years I was trying to be an actor, and I do these things once in a while and get a little bit of a change, but nothing really would happen. And one day I was almost 40 years old. I was 37, 38. And I remember I was behind the bar talking to my friend about creating a reality. And you put your awareness on it and your consciousness, you got to be it. And he goes, he looks at me and goes, yeah, he's waiting for a gin and tonic over there. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm talking about creating a reality. There's nothing wrong with bartending. People loved it, but I didn't like bartending. I didn't like making drinks. I just did it to make a living. And I thought to myself, I don't have the life I would like to have, and yet I'm talking about it. And so that sense of my highest value is congruency, like talking about something and being it. So I was like, I have to either do one or two things now. I have to either prove this kind of thing is real. And even as I said that, it was ridiculous. Like, how do you get to the moon or build a skyscraper unless you become one with the consciousness of the experience you want? So it's kind of silly to even think like, I'm going to prove it. Prove what? That your imagination, focus, and determination creates things? Like, what am I proving? Or if it doesn't work and all this focusing and whatever I think I'm about to do doesn't work, then I'll never speak of it again. I promise myself. I will never speak of it again. And I looked at him and I said, if I'm a working actor, doesn't have to be a movie star, just I'm working and I'm making a living as much or more than I am bartending. In 3 months, you come to me and ask me what I did and I will teach you. So that day I went home and I sat in my chair. It was the next day. I woke up, I was all ready. And I knew what I had to do is put my awareness on the pattern I wanted rather than the familiar patterns of my past and projected future, right? So I sat in my chair. I was just like, what am I thinking about? I don't know. What am I thinking about? I don't know the script. I'm going to imagine a script that's going to show up. That's not it. Is it a movie, TV show? Is it Oh, yeah, visualization. I'm all over the place. I couldn't even focus, and it started hitting me first. I can't even focus on what I say I want for 10 seconds, and I expect that to be my future. It's fascinating, right? So I stopped, and I kept trying then to get something to eat, and then I would think like I just start drifting into other things and familiar patterns, and then I got to work Thursday. Like all these familiar patterns started presenting themselves, and the voices came back again. Now, they've come back about twice since that first time, but this is when they really came back with a vengeance, where they said, choose one thing. That's why I became an NLP instructor, because in NLP we say, get your evidence procedure. How do you know you have achieved the desired result? How do you know you're a working actor? Not a great actor, not an award-winning actor. I want to be a working actor. I want to be working, right? So how do you know that when that happens? And I said, well, I guess I don't know. And they said, well, if you don't know, we don't know. And he or it doesn't know. So, like, if you don't know what it is you want and you're listening to your brain as a pattern recognition device as reality, then what do you expect? And I said, okay, I guess. And I'm very good aesthetically, like I can feel things that are not there. So I imagined, because every time I try to visualize, it would be like just an abstract big picture of a trailer. Or I said, I guess if I was living in a trailer, like I was familiar with the trailer, living there and waiting there. That's what, when you're working, you live in a trailer, they come get you, you come back. And so I said, okay, if I was in a trailer and that was very familiar to me and I was sitting there. And so they said, okay, do that. And so I imagined me with a bag. I can feel the weight of the bag, one of my senses. And then I walked up those metal steps, opened the door, closed it, and then dropped my bag. And I did that. And I said, now what? They said, do that. I said, for how long? I said, you said you're going to do this 20 minutes a day, 3 times a day. Do it 20 minutes a day, 3 times a day. I was like, that's it? Yeah, for now. And now I know in hindsight what it was teaching me. It was teaching me that if I can't at least focus on what I choose to focus on, nothing else is going to change. They might as well have said, just focus on your breath for 20 minutes and just learn to keep bringing your attention back to your breath. They could have easily said that, right? But they said, this is what you would like to intend, so focus on that. So I walk up the stairs, and then I started dropping it. And then I realized what was great about this was my brain couldn't wander because I was focused on all 5 senses and one specific thing that it's like I had something to put my teeth on, latch my teeth. I was able to focus on it. And then I started bringing in my other senses. I started seeing the table, seeing my script, the speaker I might have brought with me, whatever it is. I started seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. And I did that every day. That's it. That's all I did for 20 minutes, 3 times a day for about 10 days. And then suddenly, it's like I put a laser into a parallel universe and it started opening up. Suddenly in my imagination, I don't even believe in imagination anymore. I don't think there's a real thing called imagination. I think everything exists in the heart of God, in the field, and we just tune into it, and then it vibrates, and we transduce it. That's why I like to call it the law of transduction, not, attraction. You transduce the invisible into the physical by tuning into it. But because you're not in a hedonic tone of pleasure and pain and greed and fear, you're surrendering to God. You're saying God's will in that state of preference and saying, hey, if you want that, fine, but I'm enjoying this. I don't need it, but I'm enjoying it right now. And that's enough. If you want to make it physical, fine, right? That kind of thinking. And so I, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm visualizing, and then I hear a knock on the door opens, and I see this woman with like a headset. And she's like, Mr. Tabbanella, we're ready for you. I was just like, oh, okay. And I said, now what? What do I do now? I said, enjoy it. So I walked out and I saw the director going, hey, Joe, and the producers going, hey, and the director, oh, we saw the dailies yesterday. The stuff you shot, really great stuff. And then all of a sudden I started enjoying, and I realized what I was enjoying really is this being welcomed and wanted. And I realized I'd never had that in my nervous system. I always had being rejected. And as a result, I defended that pain and hurt by being full of shit. Like, hey, Joey Tab, Joey Tab, like dancing and singing. And even though it was my nature, your subconscious hijacks your nature as a defense as well as a purpose, purpose or meaning. So I realized that I started like enjoying the fact that after they yelled cut, everyone would clap. Or they yelled cut and everyone would laugh, or they yelled cut and the DP would do this too. And I started feeling like I was valuable. And I realized that's what I needed to start to visualize, the pattern of energy in my neurology that was unfamiliar because I was holding on to the trauma of being ignored, not being important, feeling like a piece of shit all my life, right? So I started internalizing that pattern, and I started enjoying how it felt in my body over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, 3 months later, through the confluence of many different causes and effects, including the voices helping me to get an agent, right? All of a sudden, I'm auditioning for right before, this is important because this is part of the process. And I'm sure when people hear the story, they're like, how do I do this? So I'm going to share what I did this day. So one day, a friend of mine calls me. She's having a hard time with her audition. She was an actor. She goes, how do you get over like an audition not going well? And I started talking to her. I started saying, well, when you know where you're going, moments are just feedback. You break a step. If you're going upstairs, you don't go, oh, how do I get over a broken step? You just keep going. And then she says to me, so you're saying that it shouldn't mean that much to you. I went, right, it shouldn't mean that much, but I hate platitudes. It shouldn't mean that much. Who said it shouldn't mean that much? It does mean a lot. Let's look at why. Why do you want this? Come on, why do you really want this? You and your husband do very, very well financially. Don't tell me creativity. You got more creativity in a play or in an acting class than you will in a walk-on part and going, hi, paper or plastic. Why do you really, really? And I started talking her into this, and I was basically hypnotizing her into the experience of being important, being valuable, being needed. You show up to a gate, they say, oh, you can't come here. Oh, Jane, oh yeah, come on right in. I didn't know you're, oh yeah, you can't come in, but you can come in. Being welcomed, being valuable, feeling needed, feeling purposeful. You're the one at the coffee shop with the script that someone's hiring you to do. Everyone else has got a newspaper or just whatever it is. Like you're in, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And suddenly I'm talking myself into this experience of being that valuable, that purposeful, that wanted. And suddenly I say to her, now, how do you feel? She goes, I feel fucking great. I go, now, do you have a show? Are you did you get the part? She goes, yeah. I said, no, really? She goes, no. I said, wait. Stay with that feeling. Stay with the feeling. Yeah. How do you feel? Great. I said, which feeling is more likely? If any feeling could, or any state of being could. That's why I study NLP, because there's a state, right? What feeling, if any feeling could, would more likely create that part for you? This state, or the state you called me, with about an hour ago? She said, this state. I said, what's going to happen when you get this wonderful thing you're talking about, other than feel the state that you're feeling right now? And the real question is, what the hell are you holding on to that stops you from staying in this state? What are you holding on to that stops you from feeling great and then wanting something rather than needing something to happen to feel great? What emotion are you holding on to? I didn't realize, how far it would go down that rabbit hole over the next 20 years, 12 years, 13 years. So I was just like, okay. And that's when the voices came back again. They said, you got it. You got it. You found it. You found what you did. You're doing on purpose now what you did accidentally with the $5,000. Hang up the phone. I hang up the phone. My agent calls. I've had agents before, but I never had an agent that actually got me out. I had an agent, did a lot of visualization and a lot of this stuff. And suddenly I have a guest star on NCIS, and it's like a 10-day top of show guest star, right? And they never sent me out again. It was so strange. I thought it was me. I thought it was something about me, And here's an agent I now shows up in the 3 months. And again, that was an interesting thing, but I don't want to get into what happened with that. But the bottom line is I have an agent, and I'm going out on auditions, and my auditioning is better. My confidence, even when I went into his office, normally I would go in all, timid and saying I work really hard. And I never understood my friends that were working actors. I just thought they were myopic, aggressive, and needy and greedy because they would be really determined. And I just thought, I don't ever want to be that greedy or needy or aggressive ever, right? And I realize now why, because they already had the end result. That agent was in their way or is going to help them, but they had the end result. So now for the first time, I'm looking at two agents at the desk, and I'm looking at them with no credits to speak of, like jokes, a joke as a credit. And I look at him and I said, both of them, I said, look at me, guys, look at me. You looking at me? Yeah. I'm a TV series waiting to happen. You hear me? Like this cocky, confident arrogance that came out of nowhere, but it wasn't feigned. It was real. It was a feeling of like, I already have the experience, the $5,000 already. I'm going to go to Pennsylvania and buy a car. That's what the feeling was. It's like, you with me here on this? You guys want to join this ride, this bus? Do you want to join it? Because it's moving, right? And so now cut to that day, they say, hang up the phone, you got it. And I hang up the phone. And this is the caveat and pitfall with this work, right? This is it. I hang up the phone and I say to myself, that is it. I remembered feeling like I felt with the lottery, which was, the only difference was I was feeling great rather than just free, right?
Yeah.
But then later, my voices talked me into this and said, no, remember when you said, why do you feel so great? Why do I feel so? I realized it was because I let go of everything else that I was holding on to, the fear, the attachment to emotion, sadness, hurt, shame, all this stuff, right? So I was right there. And I said to myself, no body, no person, no event, no emotion, no belief, no thing is going to take me out of this wholeness of being ever again, because I felt that feeling. That doesn't mean I don't want things. It doesn't mean I'm not going to beg, borrow, and steal to get things. It doesn't mean I'm not going to really, really work hard to, it just means I'm not going to leave this state. And I get a call. And my agent goes, can you speak, can you Italian accent? I said, yeah, yeah, sure. So I go into the audition, and then I didn't, for some reason, I didn't remember what he said. So in my head, when they say Italian accent, New Yorker, I'm thinking they're looking for my accent, the New York accent. So I walk in, and same thing with the casting director that does the hiring. I looked at them and I said, I remember thinking, what could you give me that I haven't given myself? Like, I felt like I could just give them something, that they can't give me anything. I can give you, but you can't give me. I already have everything I want. So I remember saying, is this New York or real Italian, like Italy? She goes, it's in Italy. I said, oh, okay. I haven't done that in a couple of maybe years. I said, can I go in my car and work on this for an hour? I would have never had that confidence. I would be like, oh, okay, hello, my name is Joe, And so I went in the car, worked on it, came back. She goes, you work on it? I said, no, I fell asleep. I said, joke. I never would, because no one can give me anything. I read, and for the first time, I'm actually able to perform the way I perform in an acting class, for a casting director. My agent calls me, goes, you're not going to believe this. They love you. They pinned you. They're going to give you this part. They love you. That's 20 years of wanting to be like a working actor. It was a nighttime soap opera. It wasn't a big deal, but it was for me, because I never allowed myself to even consider that I can be doing what I feel like doing and would like to do, right? Life was always a hoping and a struggling, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And I freaked out. I couldn't believe what's happening. And then I get a call the next day. And this is the most important thing I tell my students and people in workshops and interviews, is because this is where it gets tricky. All of a sudden, I get a call, Joe, some guy came in with a French accent, and it was better for the part, because he's like, get out of here, don't want you here, and it was better for the chef, And I went into a spiral depression that you wouldn't believe. And I see this happen when I work with relationships with people. The person that we visualize shows up. They show up, but all the other stuff that hasn't been released needs to come up. So that person suddenly is married, or they pull back, or they change their mind, or they cheat, or they get really cold, or whatever it is. And that's what happened. I went into spiral depression. It was bad. It was really, really bad. I was finally given what I wanted for all these years. It was taken away. And then they came back, and they said, well, that was easy. That was quick. That was quick. I said, what was quick? And they were funny about it. No body, no thing, no person, no motion. Wow, someone gives you something, take it away, and you prostitute your essence that fast? Your essence, you just give away that fast for a part? Really? You're going to give away God that fast? I was just like, oh my God. It's like, holy cow. So I said, you're right. So I stopped, took a couple deep breaths. I was doing basically meditation, self-hypnosis. I didn't know that at the time. I was relaxing, and then I imprinted the picture again of everyone going, hey, we love you, we want you, until I felt really good. Dropped the picture and stayed with the feeling. I said, okay, I feel great. I feel great, and they didn't want me. As soon as I get to that state again, no body, no place, no thing, they call me again. Hey, Joe, can you play creepy? I said, I can play anything. I said, because I don't think it as making believe. I think it as just tuning into something that already exists, and you allow it as much as you want it to move through your system, right? And that's like imagination I was saying before. So they called me, said, okay, I go in, I'm this creepy guy. They're like, oh my God, he was great. Oh my God, he was so creepy. Oh my God, we love him. Don't tell him, because we don't want to disappoint him, but we pinned him. We think he's it. And my agent had to tell me. He's like, I got to tell you, they love you. They pin you. I was like, oh, cool. They call again. Joe, some guy walked in. He had a really good face for it. As soon as he walked into the room, he was just like, he had really cool eyes. And it was really, and it was like, went down to spiral depression again. This time I caught myself. I was like, no. I'm going to catch myself. And I stopped, and I did it again. I went into the image. Got the state, let go of the image, let go of everything else, and said, I want from this state, but never at the expense of it. Then they call me again. 2 days later in the state. I go in, I'm not right for the part. I don't even leave it. I don't even care. I said, nah, he's not right. Sorry. Well, he was great. Maybe one day. I was just like, I don't care. Stay right here. I stayed right here. And then I get a call. Joe, they're just going to give you this other part. And it was almost as big or as big as the first two parts. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what? Like I'm it's a nighttime soap opera, but I'm working. I couldn't bartend anymore. I had to work there. I had a trailer. And then 8 months, like 6 months later, I'm dropping my bag in the trailer. And I went,
That's so fascinating, and that's one of the reasons that when I was given your name to come on the show, it's so in line with all the people that I've been able to kind of to be in contact with. You got the John D. Martinis. He does a collapse process, and he takes something that really bothers you, collapse it down to why you're grateful for it. Obviously, Tony Robbins, the way he does all of his programming and so on and so forth. And what's funny is it works every time. That's the thing. It works every time. And so the reason that I love having you on our show is it's just another voice saying the same thing, but there's going to be somebody that resonates with what you say, and they're going to make that massive change. Do you believe, though, that there are people that want to manifest something, but what they want to manifest, there's no way they're going to attain it? Or do you believe everybody can obtain anything that they want?
well, it's a good question, but you have to identify what does it mean to manifest, right? And it feels like manifesting to me, like it just shows up because I'm aware of the fact that my brain is processing 50 million bits of information a second, my conscious mind about 50. So if I get out of the way and I don't try to interfere with that flow of processing, that clear contrast between what I am holding as awareness and what is. If you can balance out that razor's edge of holding your awareness and accepting everything that's moving that is, that contrast, that juxtaposition, the greater the contrast, the greater the energy. So this energy, if you leave it alone, it's going to tell you, you better start reading up on, jet propulsion if you want to get to Mars. Like it happens to you. You're still doing it, but you're allowing it to be done to you. And so that's how manifestation works. But what happens is when people are manifesting, there's two issues that you have to really address. You have to understand that oftentimes people are confusing a state with a goal. Like I want manifest a relationship. Why? I want to feel loved. Well, what is love? Feeling love. It's a chemistry in your body. Do you have that now? No. I think they're going to give it to me. So you're trying to manifest a state of being by changing the outside world. You're responsible for that manifestation. You're not responsible for the external. You have, that's life, that's behaviors, whatever. I mean, you're responsible for showing up and taking action, keeping boundaries and all this stuff to get that person to match who you become. But when most of the time of people in attachment and craving, they're not in intention, they're in craving. And so the reason they're in craving is because they have an unprocessed emotion. Now, the greater the trauma, the greater the emotion, or the greater the person's, or the less resilient that person is to trauma, the greater the energy is going to be around the negative. Until that person understands what emotions are and that they're supposed to leave, and your external world, even when it manifests, is going to come and go anyway. And you realize what you're really trying to manifest is a pattern of energy in your mind and body as a past, present, future projection, while recognizing everything is morphing into that. Until you do that, you're in suffering. If you do that, you're in this perpetual state of positive expectancy and gratitude. Gratitude because you're always imprinting yourself with wonderful patterns while respecting that life is not matching it. But positive expectancy because a part of you knows that if you feel really great and you have a desire and everything else has a right to be, your body your brain is a pattern recognition device. It's looking for the most dominant pattern. If you no longer have the patterns created by cortisol and all the trauma, patterns that's trying to remember, this pattern of energy, right? This pattern of energy is really what the brain's more interested in than the thing you say you want. So the thing you want is really a craving, a fantasy that if it happens, you think you'll get rid of this pattern of energy. This pattern of energy leaves through acceptance, resilience, reframe, understanding, and self-regulation and desensitizing, not by changing the external world. And once someone gets their mind around that, then they realize the joy of manifesting is not getting things that move. It's allowing yourself to be something and ignoring everything else that was getting your attention as now devalued and unimportant because they were associated to childhood memory patterns, little traumas and big traumas of being ignored or being unimportant. And that doesn't mean you can't be successful. If you have the wherewithal, all the pattern, like in other words, I know if I get a PhD, or I know if I do this, I'll have that money, or my father was a businessman and I want to be rich, and I'll still get rich. I'll still get the relationship, but I'll be always terrified of losing it. Always. And no matter what happens, I'll see it, look for it, and then eventually create it. Because whatever is suppressed will have to come out to face so we can release it. And the more we try to fight it and control reality, the worse it becomes. The more successful we look on the outside, the more panicked we get on the inside because we're trying to stop this dam of energy that's just trying to accept life and process life. And we start trying to control things.
Joe, thank you so much for coming on Truth Talks. I tell you what, it is an unbelievable pleasure to be able to speak with you. I love where you're going. I love the alignment. I believe in this stuff 100%. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts here at Truth Talks for coming on. You helped somebody today. I promise you that.
No, thanks. It's a pleasure being with you, Dr. Mitch and Chad. Thank you guys. You guys are great. It was really, really fun. It sounds like you're doing really great work.
Well, we're trying our best. We're manifesting it, and then now we're taking it past that next level after talking to you. So we're going to bring that energy in. We're going to stay in that state. And I love how you brought that message in. It was perfect. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right,
Thank you for
buddy.
having me.
Take care of yourself.
Bye, guys.